You're probably wondering yourselves, why is it that I'm showing a video of some old 20th century architecture? To fully understand the reason, you have to use a little bit of your imagination. Although these buildings may now seem as old, grey, even ugly, they once stood as a symbol of a fast-growing Yugoslavian industry. During the period right after the Second World War, Croatia, as a part of a newly founded Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, went through some difficult times. As the time passed by, slowly but steadily, the economy and the industry started to recover. Of course, under the strict supervision of the Communist Party. From the late 50s and the early 60s, when the heavy industry propelled the country forwards, cities began to develop, and develop fast. Zagreb, the capital of Croatia, experienced a great expansion south of the river Sava, where there was a completely new modern city being born. They planned to accommodate up to 300,000 people in a vast net of carefully planned, brand new neighborhoods, filled with modern buildings and skyscrapers. Of course, the general idea of an efficient modern urbanism wasn't exactly Yugoslavian, but the realization of such projects was carried out by local government, local experts and workforce, using local resources and materials, thus being not only one of the crucial elements of the economy, but also a symbol of the society's aspiration for a better modern future. Much like this cute-looking car. Its lines and form may look familiar, but many of you, especially those outside Southeast Europe, haven't probably heard of it. In order to define what it is, first we have to understand its origin, so you'll forgive me for a brief history lesson. In 1936, Italian Fiat presented one of the smallest city cars ever, naming it 500, which literally means 500. It was commonly known as the Topolino, or Little Mouse. More than 500,000 of these minicars were produced, helping to motorize those who couldn't afford something bigger and more expensive. 19 years later, in 1955, they introduced a completely new small family car, this time featuring a new layout. Its engine was moved to the back, creating space for 4 seats inside and a small boot in its nose. Since it had a slightly bigger engine, they've called it the 600. People often confuse the 600 with one of the most famous Italian cars of all time, but it wasn't until 1957, 2 years later, when Fiat Nuova 500, or New 500, appeared and quickly won hearts all over Europe. The new 500 was similar to the 600 model, following the same layout recipe, but it was even smaller than the already tiny big brother. Its popularity grew and grew, turning it into one of the symbols of the Italian Dolce Vita, while the 600 somehow remained a loyal, hard-working player in the shadow. How is any of this related to our car then? A Yugoslavian factory called Zastava, which has been producing vehicles under license since the 1940s, made a deal with the Italian manufacturer. They've agreed upon production of a 600 model, but in their own factory in Serbian city of Kragujevac. This was a common thing. The 600 was also produced in Spain, Germany, even South America. And after 7 years of assembling the imported parts, in 1962 Zastava finally started the production of a homemade car with a new, more powerful 750cc engine and a new name. Zastava 750 was born, commonly known as Fićo. Now that we've learned something about its background, there's only one thing left to do. Let's drive it!
Let's go! Our first drive in a great Fićo. My God, that's put a smile on my face. Wow! That's great. It steers beautifully.
For a price of a brand new car, and at the beginning of the 60s that meant the equivalent of 13 average salaries, you will get this charming body, a small hamster under the bonnet in the back which, if it tried hard enough, would eventually get you to staggering 110 kilometers per hour, 4 seats inside, 4 wheels, and that's about it actually.
Oh my god, the feeling! I wish you could be here in this funny car. Mind you, it's a great car. Okay, sorry about that. The horn works. Everything works. It's just like a big car.
Thanks to the 1950s clever packaging, they managed to fit a lot of things in its tiny body. A small engine in the back was easily accessible, and to help your engine cool down on a hot summer day, you could just drive with the bonnet half open. They even say it helped the aerodynamics of the car, raising its top speed. The boot up front was filled with the petrol tank and a spare tire, but there was some space left for your tools, just in case. The interior had only a couple of most basic bare necessities, but you could say that there were fewer things to distract you from the joy of driving it. Don't think it lacked luxury equipment. Instead of complicated climate control, these side windows helped to cool the interior. Not to mention fully adjustable left side only rear view mirror. And of course, you could always install a couple of aftermarket details in order to make your Fićo look special. Like a stereo, or this beautiful checkered blanket which could keep you and your loved one warm during the romantic night under the stars. During the years, Fićo has changed. It has lost some charming details from the 60s inherited from the Fiat 600, but got some new treats, more modern ones, like bigger headlights, doors that open in a normal way, and a stronger 850cc engine in the 1980s. With minimal modifications, it has continued to march through the market until 1985. Combined with the assembly of the 600 model in the beginning, that means the production has lasted for incredible 30 years. And the total number of produced cars? Over 900,000. Unfortunately, not everything was so great about it. The first problem was getting the car. You see, in a closed market of socialist Yugoslavia, with crazy import taxes and planned economy, it wasn't exactly easy to get a hold of a new car. It was a common thing to take anything that was available in that moment, even after the long period of waiting. But even when you bought it, and it was considered to be a very special occasion, your worries wouldn't end there. Its simple mechanics meant it was a strong little thing, but the road network was underdeveloped, much as service network, So your new family member depended much upon various skills of improvisation in order to keep it healthy and preserve it from hard exploitation conditions. And of course, let's not forget that the quality of the product varied much from one example to another. So the car wasn't that great. It had many flaws. It was tiny, slow, based on the 1950s technology. It had what was only a basic Spartan equipment, and it had some issues with quality and customer service. But that didn't stop it from becoming a true legend of the country. It was far from perfect as a car, but it did great as a symbol of modernization. The government has spent much effort in order to present it not as a luxury, but as a basic need of the society. It helped to transform it. It somehow represented personal freedom, a confirmation of a personal success and a way to connect the country. Families would take it on a holiday trip and manage to transport unimaginable quantities of things in it. For hundreds of thousands of people, it was the first encounter with everything a car had brought to the modern world. Young people especially appreciated the opportunity to travel freely. This man, for example, pulled over in his brand new, rather boring executive saloon with a big smile on his face just to tell us that he had a Fićo that was exactly like ours. He then shared his memory of visiting seaside with 5 of his mates. Yes, 6 of them managed to fit inside. That happy, carefree experience of his got me wondering. Is it still possible for a car like this to find its niche in this strict time of the 21st century, obsessed with rules and regulations? Could it normally serve as an everyday car just like it did in its heyday when our grandfathers and fathers drove it? I think it could. And I think it could even show us a couple of its tricks we forgot about long time ago. You could argue that it is too tiny for a time that values comfort above anything else. But just look at how much camping equipment we've managed to fit into those 3 meters, while still having plenty of space in the front seats. You could say that I've cheated using its back seats and not the boot, but tell me something. How much camping equipment could you fit in a smart car? The safety standards of its time were based on a philosophy, try not to crash. But with a near perfect visibility and the actual feedback it gives you while driving it, you could go terribly slow according to modern standards, yet fast enough to learn how to control the dynamics of the car, which can eventually turn you into a better and safer driver. It's something modern cars find more and more difficult to achieve. It might not be as reliable as a modern car, but since its mechanics are so basic, it's much easier and cheaper to repair it. And you can save a lot of money if you just try it yourself and learn something useful while doing it. And with the prices of a good, decent example only going up, now is the moment to catch that train. Get yourself a Fićo for a small amount of money, take a good care of it, and in short time, you could even profit from it. You'd also help to preserve a small piece of history. Still, no argument can beat those positive, romantic, happy feelings it causes in other people. So even after so many years, it still holds a few tricks up its sleeve. Which brings me back to the beginning of this video. People tend to focus only on worn-out, unattractive facades, ignoring some of the truly admirable characteristics of both these neighborhoods and this small car. Their flaws may cover their good points, but somehow it wouldn't be fair just to give up on them, since they've witnessed so many human stories and were a great part of them.
This exact Fićo, one of the later models from the 80s, needs some repairs and constant care. It asks for compromises, but it can still give you so much in return. It can teach you how to drive and live with the car properly, making people feel better wherever you go. While this part of the city still stands as a great example of clever urban planning, with a lot of public spaces, well-organized traffic, green parks and playgrounds for children. General public accuses it of lacking more cultural, social and educational content, calling it just a giant sleeping dormitory. But it isn't something that can't be changed with a couple of smart investments and fresh ideas, offering further generations a place to create their own stories. Who knows which little car will be a part of them?